Thanks for listening, y'all. Our next storyteller, Bryant.
Cool. Okay. Before I start, I want to bring everyone's attention to the pictures behind me. My story today is about my brother Bobby. So the picture on the right, Bobby's on the left side, of course. My brother was a brother. My brother was a brother. And the picture on the left was Christmas. Bobby's on the left, and that's me on the right. I look down and can see cuts and scrapes after the fall. I tried riding my bike down this dirt hill that wasn't built for folks to ride down, but more for hikers to hike up. As I walked to my house, I had my head down. I thought about what might happen once my mother saw me. She's gonna whip me. I made it to my apartment and walked through the door. Mom wasn't home, but I could hear Bobby playing the Nintendo in the basement. Crying, I called, "Bobby?" He came upstairs. He looked down at my legs and asked, "What happened to you?" I was riding my bike down the hill, the run next to the basketball court. "Man, what did you do?" he said. "Okay, I'm gonna go grab the rubbing alcohol, sit on the front steps, and wait for me." For the next 5 minutes, my brother Bobby tended to my cuts. It hurt, but all I could think about was, this person must really love me. It was less a thought and more a feeling. I felt safe. He took his time providing first aid and care. Bobby was gentle. Bobby was sweet, charismatic, fast. He was beautiful. My mom got home and I didn't get whipped. Bobby epitomized what a man was. At 12, he was telling me what I needed to do. Bobby was a father figure. He stepped up when my father stepped away. He showed me how to shoot a basketball. He demonstrated how to pick up girls. He was always on the phone with one. He was just the man. At the age of 14, he had a growth spurt and was 6'1". I'm not comparing him to LeBron. I know, right? Right? Like, what happened to me, right? I'm not comparing him to LeBron, but there's a play LeBron does where he'll chase down an offensive player and bat the ball away just before he can score. Bobby used to do that. He was always winning at the park, and people would come out from other neighborhoods to watch him play or to play him. He didn't only play basketball, he played football too. He started his football season one year and started complaining of some pain in his knee. Mom took him to the hospital. He had x-rays done, and his doctor told him that it was just tendonitis and that the pain would go away in a couple weeks. A couple weeks passed, and he was still in pain, and his knee began to swell. They took all his information over to the children's hospital, the same information, and he was diagnosed with osteosarcoma. He had cancer, a tumor in his knee, and the tumor spread to his lungs. Bobby would immediately be rushed into chemo, and I got to see a different side of him. The chemo treatments were hard. Blood transfusions. It felt like the roles were reversed, and I was cleaning his wounds. I would bring food and water up to him because it was difficult for him to walk up and down the stairs. I helped him with whatever he needed. I would listen to him as he cried some nights. Back then, I would say he was just sad, but I think he was depressed. But he cried. He did that thing that I stopped doing because I wasn't a kid anymore. Till this day, I struggle with crying, but understand that it is at times necessary and is a reasonable response to happy and terrible events. Bobby stopped going to school and was homeschooled. I started to notice how lonely he was. Folks would come visit after school, but I felt like it wasn't enough. I started to skip school to accompany him to his treatments. One day, I walked into my drama class and the TV stand was rolled to the front of the class. We were watching the movie Big with Tom Hanks. 15 minutes into the movie, I get pulled aside for talking to one of my friends while the movie was on. The teacher, a white man, spent the next 5 minutes tearing into me, telling me about how upset he was at the fact that I simply didn't care about his class. Drama class? Practice? I was like, really, drama class? Do you even care about your future? I guess that was my cue to respond. I said, I'm sorry, but the reason why I miss school so much is because I go to the cancer clinic with my brother and his appointments are during school hours. His jaw dropped. Before you knew it, the whole school was apologizing to me. And it struck me. No one really knew about my sick brother. I was escorted into the counselor's office where I said nothing. At the time, I didn't understand the nature of a counseling session and wouldn't until I got much older and became a social worker myself. The school's response helped me realize the gravity of the situation. This wasn't the flu or strep throat. Bobby had a life-threatening illness, and nobody, including him, knew if he was going to beat it. The weight of the world was placed on this 14-year-old's shoulders, and he had the energy to bark at me to finish my homework before picking up the sticks or to shower before going to bed. To teach me what a motherboard was, and to chat about how dope Lisa Ray was in the Players Club. One day, you'll go through some tough situations, but you gotta put your head down and try the best you can to overcome. That's what Bobby said. Being a man was trying your hardest to be the best person you could. Manhood is gentle, idiosyncratic, or unique to each individual. Bobby would fight his illness, and after a brief remission, his illness came back full force midway through his 15th year. On June 22, 2002, Edward Antoine, aka Bobby, died. This year marked the 20th anniversary of his death. He didn't make it to his 16th birthday and would have been 36 years old today. At his funeral, I didn't cry. I didn't say much that whole week. It was my first funeral and didn't really know how I should behave. After the service, my father approached me and said, "Well, son, take care of your mom. I promise I'll come back to visit." I watched him as he walked away and entered his cab. He would head back to Brooklyn, New York, where I was born. I wouldn't see him for another 11 years after that. One of my best friend's father walked up to me and said, "You know what this means, right?" I waited until he continued. "You are the man of the house now. You have to do everything you can to be there for your mother." What were these old men telling me that I either didn't already know or I was confused about? I was to be there for my mother, but I didn't know what being the man of the house was, so I filled in the blanks. I paid a little more time and attention to how money was being spent. I spent a little less time on the game and more time asking my mother what she needed and how I could help. "Baby, I'm fine. Now eat your food." You see, my mom could handle herself. What I needed to be was to be a kid. What I would go on to be a big brother myself for my sister, Aisha. I would do everything but put my hands on my mother's boyfriend when he was being abusive. I quit football so that I could help more at home. I didn't go to school dances. What happened to me is what happens to a lot of black boys, having to grow up way before they have to. But in that growth, I learned from Bobby that in life, the world may be crashing down on you, Your bike might be losing balance, but you fight, and you fight until you can't anymore. And you fall, but not because you didn't try to stay up. You fall, and sometimes that's okay. It's okay to be okay. Thank you.